Well, my friends, this is it. After 4 years, the spectacular ride that has been Gundam Unicorn finally comes to a close with Episode 7, Over the Rainbow. Unicorn was a big series, unprecedented as it was not only the first animated adaptation of a Gundam novel, and also as a series of approximately 50-minute long episodes with this 90-minute finale. With long waits between each episode, stellar animation, fantastic music, and a story that gave us great giant robot action, interesting characters, and also really analyzed and expanded upon the Universal Century mythos, each episode of this series was a freaking event. So, as the grand finale it's all been building up to, how was Episode 7? Well, I could save several minutes of your time by just saying I liked it, or I didn't like it, or something simple like that, but I'm gonna be a little more detailed than that since I like to hear myself talk. Detailed, but also refraining from explicitly spoiling anything for those of you who haven't seen the episode yet. Let's start the review off with animation, music, featured mechs, that sort of stuff. From the beginning, Gundam Unicorn has been gorgeous. Both the mobile suit battles as well as the subtle expressions and movements of the characters are as impeccably animated here as they've always been. But even on top of the quality we've come to expect, this episode is probably the most visually striking of all. There's a lot of trippy new type and psycho frame phenomena that they use to colorful, radiant, captivating effect. Visual wonder that helps give the episode an overall even more grand cinematic feel than this series already had. On the musical side of things, the wonderfully composed soundtrack by Hiroyuki Sawano once again sounds great. From the exciting, majestic operatic stuff to the moving piano tearjerkers. They made a 4th volume of the soundtrack just for this episode, and it contains remixes of several tracks we've heard throughout the series, like Banshee, Unicorn, Mad Nug, Mobile Suit, RX-0, and more. There's also beautiful new orchestral versions of a couple ending songs from previous episodes, and even a song from the first Gundam series, which, along with the sequence it's played in, is sure to leave longtime UC fans feeling nostalgic. Hearing all these new arrangements of music from across the 4 soundtracks makes this episode feel like that much more of a big, glorious culmination. And finally, the ending song, Star Ring Child, is a rockin' yet lovely and passionate song to sit back and enjoy when the ride's over, the credits are rolling, and everything you just watched is sinking in. Moving on to the mecha featured here, we see the full armor Unicorn and Banshee Norn in their destroy modes, and it's pretty cool, especially with their psycho frames resonating and causing that full body glowing effect. Not only does the full armor Unicorn kick some ass with all the firepower it's packing, but when it glows green, it transcends to what I guess is basically the ultimate new type machine, the potential of which is as limitless as human emotion and willpower itself. It can also use its 3 eye-field beam Gatling gun shields as funnel-like remote-controlled weapons. That's pretty cool too. The Banshee certainly looks unique with its backpack add-on flipping up to give it even more of a lion's mane look. I like how things like that, the multi-purpose revolving launcher on its beam magnum, and that kick-ass extra-large shield with a built-in beam cannon and thrusters really help give it its own style while still maintaining the same essential features as its counterpart. We also have the Kshatriya Repaired, which doesn't get a ton of screen time, but just enough to show off its new jury-rigged arsenal. I really wish the full armor Unicorn were using that awesome hyper beam javelin like the Katoki version, but I do also like the way it looks on the Kshatriya's arm. And that bare frame peg leg thing with a built-in beam Gatling gun is a pretty neat gimmick too. The Rosen Zulu provides a nuisance with those psycho jammers that can disrupt and immobilize psycho frame-equipped mobile suits. Our favorite jealous, psychotic, full-frontal worshipper, Angelo, is apparently so eager to take down Banagher with this beastly mobile suit that he'll even go through any allies in his way. The people in Gundam will never learn to not put crazy people in powerful mobile suits, will they? And now, created just for the anime adaptation of Unicorn, and quite possibly the most anticipated mech of the episode, the Neo Zeong. It's the Sinanju plugged into an absolutely massive mobile armor, Gundam GP03 Dendrobium style. This juggernaut is even more overloaded with weapons and gimmicks than people were expecting. It's got beam cannons all over, bazookas, eye fields, 4 extra arms on its back, some kind of big radiating ring that apparently makes enemy weapons explode, and the ability to take control of other mobile suits. It's awesome. Not awesome enough that I'm willing to get a $200 model of it, but still awesome. The mobile suits I've talked about so far are the main attractions of the episode, but there are a lot more. Mostly grunts and cameos, and I'm not going to take the time to go over all of them. Well, actually, I will mention one more MS. The Ekowas Jagan, piloted by Conroy. This thing was totally badass by itself, and earlier on, they even had it using the Mega Bazooka launcher from Zeta Gundam. Sure was nice to see that again. Now, as for the rest of the MSs featured here, I'm just going to be lazy and show some pictures of the ones that stood out, and then move on with the review. I'm not sure where to begin now that it's time to discuss story and characters. I guess I can start by clarifying that I haven't read the novel version, so I won't be doing comparisons. I know some things, like how certain mechs like the Neo Zeong exist only in the anime version, or some alterations between the novel and anime versions of a certain mobile suit. And yes, I have come across some spoilers from people who did know how the story played out in the novel, but just basic facts like this character dies, or this character becomes the pilot of this mobile suit eventually. It's not really the same as seeing or reading the events yourself in context and getting the full experience. And besides, even if I were fit to do proper comparisons between the novel and anime, that would get real spoilerific real fast. So, while trying to keep the all-important details relatively vague, here's what's going on in this episode. Earlier on, we've got a fight between Banagher and Riddy, both of whom come from families connected to Laplace's box. One seeking to open the box before it can fall into Full Frontal's hands, the other trying to prevent it from ever being opened at all, believing that to be for the greater good. With the awesome animation, music, and Gundams, the fight is certainly cool, but not as epic as a lot of other duels in Gundam, since the rivalry here is pretty one-sided. At this point, Banagher is pretty much the focal point for everything Riddy's been growing more and more angry and obsessed about for several episodes, whereas Banagher just wants Riddy to calm down and let him get on with the real mission. Riddy seems to be pretty hated by a lot of people, who even compare him to the likes of Shin Asuka sometimes, but honestly, I always understood where he was coming from. Banagher's idealistic attitude revolving around possibility was already naturally frustrating for Riddy and his more realist approach to things. On top of that, the girl he's crushing on and genuinely wanted to help rejected him in favor of Banagher. At least that's how he sees it anyway. On top of that, when they're fighting in what should be equally powerful Gundams, Banagher displays superior control, despite Riddy being the actual trained pilot of the two and fighting with everything he's got. And on top of all his personal gripes with Banagher, Riddy has known the truth surrounding Laplace's box ever since his father told him off-screen in Episode 4. When that truth is finally made known to the audience in this episode, you may better understand why Riddy's so frustrated with Banagher. A member of the Vist family, a new type, someone trying to open the box, and a personal obstacle in his mind. I'm on Banagher's side, but I sympathize with Riddy too. A pretty good way of summing him up would actually be, as another character said in this episode, his heart is so earnest that it hurts others and himself. He wants to fight on the behalf of people like Mineva and a status quo that he admits is flawed but still thinks is the best they can reasonably hope for. And he's so emotionally invested in that crusade that he feels that much more betrayed when those people choose a different path than the one he's trying hard to give them. But enough about Riddy. The episode goes on to feature some real camaraderie between Captain Otto and Captain Zinnerman, which was really nice to see. And as the finale to a Gundam series, there's naturally some tragic death here too. Not only is it sure to give the audience a copious dose of the feels in the language of the internet, but also from a writing and characterization standpoint, it's really well handled. Both as each character is reacting to it and as they look back on it later, it's all very fitting, mature, and palpable in my opinion. As promised, this episode finally reveals what Laplace's box is and elaborates on its true significance through Banagher and Minerva's long-awaited meeting with Siam Vist. The old man's desire to rectify the mistakes of the past and entrust the box to someone with the right kind of character and sincerity is interesting, as are the Universal Century historical details revealed here, and how they affect the established history the characters and audience are left to reflect on. This is a pretty long period of dialogue that takes up a chunk of the episode, but that's just because there's a lot to talk about. There's lots of history, ideology, politics, and of course, displays of character. The way those who knew the truth behind the box talk about it all, as well as Banagher and Minerva's reactions and conclusions, really complement the characters here. Then we have the final showdown with Full Frontal in his aforementioned Neo Zeong. Banagher and Frontal's mechs and worldviews clash, with a beautifully animated fight and a shared psychic experience rather unlike any we've seen before. If you're one of the people who have been debating whether Frontal is really Char Aznable or not, suffice it to say I think you'll probably have your answer after you've seen this episode. And of course, this episode features the return of the giant colony laser Grips 2 from Zeta Gundam, which Martha and Chairman Marcinus are prepared to use to destroy Laplace's box along with everyone in Industrial 7, to keep the box's secret preserved so they can continue to benefit from it. It's certainly great to see Captain Bright show up, being the awesome character that he is, although his involvement mostly just amounts to him being a witness to what they're doing and wagging his finger at them in disapproval. I actually did find this interesting though, since usually in Gundam when we have someone pointing a giant laser at innocent people, that someone is usually a genocidal madman or tyrant, whereas here Martha and Marcinus are taking these extreme measures to protect the Vist Foundation's prosperity and keep the Marcinus family's actions regarding the box covered up. Their reasons of wanting to protect their own interests at almost any cost are villainous, yet still kind of relatable in a way. I wouldn't call it redeeming exactly, but there is a brief exchange of expressions and gestures between Alberto and Martha that does make them come across as more human than characters in these roles often are. Even if you still love to hate them, that moment at least reminds you that these are people, that they understand that actions have consequences, and that for better or worse, they are family. And speaking of family, that was one of the themes of this whole story, wasn't it? Or at least the idea that even if you can't escape the expectations, responsibilities, crimes, or other such burdens that are attached to the family you come from, you can still face those burdens in your own way of your own free will, and hopefully find a brighter future for everyone. Banagher, Minerva, and Riddy are the heirs to families with dirty secrets and blood on their hands, but they try to rise above that and any other obstacle with the words, "even so," or "in spite of that." When Laplace's box is revealed, Banagher admits that he doesn't know what the best thing to do with it is, or even if he and Minerva are fit to make that decision. But despite that uncertainty, and despite the mistakes of the past, he'll at least always make the big choices with humility, an open heart, and a reverence for the boundless possibilities out there. You could say Banagher shines as the ideal new type in this episode. An inextinguishable source of light, even in a world full of darkness and uncertainty. I guess there's more I could talk about, but I think that'll suffice. Overall, Gundam Unicorn's final episode is an exciting, emotional, beautifully crafted, all-around pretty damn satisfying ending to this huge series. I guess I would have liked to have more of an epilogue to show what happened to the characters afterward, but I'm not going to complain too hard about that, especially since it's supposed to end on kind of an optimistically ambiguous note anyway. Personally, I think it's a very strong finale, and now that I've officially seen it from start to finish, I'm proud to say Unicorn is one of my favorite Gundam series. It may not have been perfect every step of the way, but I think in the end the pros far outweigh any cons. Gundam Unicorn was an intriguing, action-packed, awe-inspiring return to the Universal Century and all that we love about it. And I believe it's more than earned its place as one of the greats.